way today's going to work is that we're going to have 5 presenters do their 5-minute presentations, and we're going to save all questions and answers till the very end, when you can ask questions of the group of presenters or any individuals that appeal to you. So take notes with the presentations as they're going on, so that you'll be ready to ask the questions at the very end. If you have any tech issues throughout the meeting time, chat with Carrie about those, and she will take care of those behind the scenes. Otherwise, we'll just keep moving through and having the focus be on the presenters. I also just wanted to add that Erica Berman had reached out to me at some point. We were having an exchange a couple of months ago. She runs Veggies to Table, a farm that produces organic produce to donate to community members experiencing food insecurity. She's in Newcastle and she's on this call. So you can get in touch with her. But she reminded me that it was at one of the Slow Money Maine gatherings when she heard the presentation, Growing to Give, which is another farm working to provide food security needs, that she got inspired to start her own operation. So it was very heartening that that came in a very spontaneous way, to know that connections are made in ways that we don't necessarily strategize through our work. We certainly work on hoping that these connections are made, and they have been made miraculously through our 10 years of work. But it's always heartening to hear about the connections that we didn't know have happened, being really satisfying mutually for all concerned. So it's a little harder without networking time in this gathering, but if there are people that inspire you as you're listening, or people that you notice on the call that you recognize a little but haven't spoken to enough, follow up and make those connections afterward, and see where they take you. We're going to start with Sarah Speer and Barbara Fiore, who are ramping up production for their organic and cooperatively owned Tootie's Tempeh. And we welcome them to begin our day.
Thank you.
I think we're ready. Well, greetings, Slow Money Maine. Thank you for having us here today. We are Tootie's Tempeh. We're a Maine-based worker-owned cooperative innovating tempeh, a delicious plant-based protein, while also modeling a more democratic economy.
And at our core values, we hold the well-being of people, animals, and the earth at the center of all the decisions we make as a company.
So we have a few slides that help tell our story, and so bear with me while I share my screen and get those going.
And maybe while Sarah's doing that, we'll see them in a second. It's beautiful photos of tempeh. I'll tell you a little bit about tempeh if you don't know. Tempeh is made of fermented beans. It can be many different beans. And it has a delicious umami flavor, people say, and a very clean 3-ingredient label. It's just soybeans, vinegar, and starter culture. And we think it beats just about any plant-based protein in terms of flavor. I know that's a biased opinion. It's also really good for your gut, for gut health, and it's packed with nutrients and vitamins. And it's one of the highest sources of protein in plant-based proteins.
Tempeh has long been enjoyed by vegetarians and vegans. However, given the growing awareness of the impact of industrialized animal agriculture on our planet and the alarming number of diseases caused by unhealthy diets and the pandemic-related trend toward healthier eating, tempeh is strongly positioned to reach a much larger market of flexitarians. In fact, it's already gone up by 42% this year. Plant-based foods are a $5 billion industry and one of the fastest growing food categories, as 65% of Americans are reducing their consumption of meat. Our tempeh will be highly competitive and differentiated in this market, especially to those not familiar with tempeh, because we're making it easier to cook and more appealing at the point of purchase. And this is our paperboard packaging instead of plastic.
We're hoping you're hungry by now. We'll also be differentiated by being the first commercial tempeh maker to ferment and package tempeh sustainably. Currently, tempeh is made in 2 layers of single-use plastic, and we've developed a proprietary and soon-to-be patented fermentation chamber that uses metal pans instead of plastic. And the royalties from this second patent will be another source of revenue for our company.
We'll be further differentiated by sourcing our organic beans locally, starting in Maine and New England, and then expanding across the United States by building a network of cooperative franchises where each location sources beans locally, so that wherever Tootie's is purchased, it's supporting local agriculture, local workers, and communities. Franchise fees here will provide a third source of revenue.
And our sales strategy will focus on the grocery channel to begin with, entering through the Buy Local program. We'll use PR and social media and guerrilla marketing to creatively engage our market. And we'll also develop collaborative marketing programs and leverage our outstanding consumer market validation results. We'll tell you about that later. Buyers and distributors are already telling us that they expect our tempeh to be a big hit because it checks just about every box in what their customers are looking for.
We've made great progress since we started in May 2019. We've developed the fermentation chamber with support from MTI, purchased a line of tempeh making equipment through a loan from the Cooperative Fund of New England. We've raised 3/4 of our Class B equity round, and most of that coming from Maine investors, including Slow Money and CEI Catalyst Fund. We've moved into this beautiful production facility you can see here and behind Barbara at the Pepperell Mill in Biddeford, and we were selected and participated in the Start.coop 2020 Accelerator Program for scalable co-ops. We've also secured 2 Maine organic farmers to grow beans for us this year, and have lined up 1 distributor and 10 stores for our soft launch. So we'll soft launch this spring and expand fully in the summer.
And our plan is to have this, our Maine facility, Maine with an E facility, to be our flagship location. And in year 3 to form an umbrella cooperative to focus on franchise development. By year 5, we plan on having 5 franchises, and in 10 years, we'll be in 20 locations with 200 employees and 25 million in sales. Our bigger goals are to help the tempeh industry shift to being more sustainable and to help transition distressed dairy farms to tempeh making and bean growing through our turnkey franchise operation. So a little bit, now we should be all back without the slides. A little bit more about us. So Sarah is an award-winning consumer food entrepreneur whose previous company achieved distribution in 42 countries, 10,000 stores, and was subsequently sold to a large competitor.
And Barbara's also a food entrepreneur and a longtime food fermenter. She's also worked in program development and training focused on systems change. We also have an outstanding group of mentors, experts, partners, and advisors, as well as an outside board member to help us achieve our goals.
So we can't end without asking the big question, how does it taste? I want to share one sample of a quote from one of our taste testers, and we've used taste testers for feedback all throughout our product development.
And we have some here today.
Tootie's tempeh is quite literally the best tempeh I've ever eaten. My husband is not someone who eats alternative meat products, but he went back for seconds. We hope to enjoy this tempeh again and again.
So we hope you're now excited about tempeh, Tootie's tempeh, and inspired by our solutions-focused innovations that reduce reliance on single-use plastics, shift demand away from industrialized animal agriculture, support local organic farmers across the country, model the new economy, and generates income from 3 sources of revenue. Thank you for letting us share our vision today with you and our vision for a healthier, more just, delicious, and sustainable future. We'd love to meet you, and we're happy to do Zoom chats. I can't wait to meet you.
And we can't wait to feed you either.
Thank you.
You're muted, Bonnie.
Though your mouths are likely watering and you can't do much with their tantalizing words, we will pledge, Carrie and I, that when we have our first in-person gathering, we will make sure that your product is on the tasting table. So I don't know how long that will be, but hang in there, folks. Good tastes are still coming. Okay, we're going to move on to Heather Donahue from Balfour Farm, whom we have been connected to probably almost since we began 10 years ago with So Many Maine. And she is going to share some of the innovative work that she's been doing with her farm. Take it away,
Hi,
Heather.
everyone. Hi there. Thanks, Bonnie. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to everybody at Slow Money Maine today and talk a little bit about how our 2020 has gone farming during a pandemic. I'm going to dive right into my slides because they're prettier than looking at me on the screen, hopefully. Here, if I can get this to work right. Did that work? Maybe not.
Okay. Yeah.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, whoops. I'm going through my slides as I touch and I shouldn't be. Okay, so so I'm going to talk a little bit about our 2020 year and what that has looked like. Thank you again. My name is Heather Donahue. My husband Doug and I own and operate Balfour Farm in Pittsfield. We have a 100-acre diversified organic dairy farm. We have a farmstead creamery on our farm, so all of our milk is turned into our own products. We milk up to 12 Normandy and Normandy cross cows. We milk once a day, year round. We currently make several varieties of raw milk aged cheeses, fresh cheeses, feta, and yogurt. And our primary markets are farmers markets, wholesale to small, local small scale grocery stores, food co-ops, and other farm stands. We started with a single home dairy cow in 2002 when we were living in New Hampshire. We bought our first proper herd of dairy cattle. In 2006, we transitioned some heifers to organic and began shipping organic milk in the fall of 2007. And then we moved to Maine in December of 2010. So we've been here just about 10 years, and we began our farmstead creamery the following spring. The primary channels that we have for our products are farmers markets, little email thing popping up there, our farmers markets, wholesale, and events. Our farmers markets this year, we attend farmers markets year round in Portland and Brunswick. We saw an average increase of 47% in our sales this year at farmers markets. Since the markets have gone inside though, we've seen those sales dip below our 2019 sales revenues. But I think once we go back outside in the spring, they'll pick right back up again. Our markets all relocated because of COVID, and we had to adjust the setup, the traffic flow, and the number of vendors that were at our farmers markets actually decreased as some people just didn't feel comfortable coming back to farmers markets. We were able to go outside 3 weeks earlier than usual back in April, and that really helped people feel more comfortable to come and shop. And right now, a lot of farmers have like rolling absences at farmers market because of exposures to COVID or concerns, and they go and get testing and then wait for the test results before going back to markets. So the farmers markets are really being really cautious about vendors and vendor health as well. And we've experienced that as well. Online ordering's been encouraged through all of our farmers markets in order to reduce the amount of time that people are spending either in a building or at the market. And we added online markets early in the spring when we weren't really sure what the governor's guidance was going to look like for having farmers markets. We ended up adding 2 online markets, which is basically we receive orders online and then we bring our orders packaged up with the people's name on them to a drop site. And then the host of the drop site handles handing everything out. So we didn't have to staff during that period of time. But those 2 markets ended up being about 4% of our total sales in 2020, which was really surprising. For our wholesale, we saw an overall increase of 10% in revenues, which was interesting because 48%, almost half of our 2019 wholesale accounts actually didn't place orders in 2020 because they were closed or had reduced business operations, or we just didn't have what they were looking for. We couldn't supply them with what they needed. The overall increase we had was actually driven by 8 new accounts, which mostly were looking for hard cheese. And that's really what we've been focusing on in the last few years and where the future of our farm lies. And so 9 of our remaining 2019 accounts, their sales of our products increased anywhere from 8 to 88%, with most of the growth being seen in small farm stands that were adding our products, and also small scale stores and co-ops that were carrying more of our product. The pandemic definitely affected foot traffic at larger grocery stores because of the reduced customer capacity that they had. And for our largest account, the Portland Food Co-op, we actually saw a reduction in sales because they just couldn't get as many customers in the door as they usually do. All of our off the farm events were canceled for 2020. And we did hold 1 event on the farm, Open Creamery Day, in the fall. So if we're talking about 2020, we got to think about what got us through that. And for us, it's the people on the farm. In addition to Doug and I, we have my mom and dad come in the summer. Olivia is our 1 full-time employee that we have, and she's like family now. She's been with us for 8 years. And our daughter and her partner, David, they came back to the farm in August, and they're going to be having a small vegetable operation that's beginning. We also helped, other things that helped was that we made some serious changes to our infrastructure in 2019. We built an underground cheese cave for aging cheese. We installed a 10 kilowatt solar system and a larger cheese vat. And all of these things helped reduce our ongoing operating costs, which has been extremely helpful. And so looking at 2021 and beyond, trying to figure out what is in the future here, we're going to continue to focus on the Little Cheese Shop, which is our farm stand that we opened in June. And that helped replace some of the income that we lost from events. We're also looking at doing some agritourism on the farm with some farm stay cabins. Definitely going back to holding more on the farm events, since we're still not certain about fairs and festivals. Aside from the Maine Cheese Festival, we haven't heard about any other festivals. I'm actively involved in planning for the Maine Cheese Festival though, so I'm pretty certain that we are going to have that. We actually have a meeting coming up in the next couple, probably next week. We're going to have a meeting of the festival and start serious planning on that. And we're going to be doing a lot more increased marketing and providing some support for Tiny Acres Farm, which is my daughter's vegetable farm. Our farm did benefit from some of the grant programs this year. We were able to secure a PPP loan first thing in the spring, which kind of got us through the first part of the pandemic, and was extremely helpful. Various other small grants came through during the year as well to help support online type expenses that we hadn't expected. And then in September, we started a 3-year project that's a value-added producer grant through the USDA. So that's our year, and that's what we have ahead of us. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was being so good muting myself, but I have to unmute on occasion too. Thanks so much, Heather. Good to get a farmer's perspective as well. And we're going to move into a combination of connection with farming and distribution, hearing from Adrienne and Colleen and Daybreak Alliance. Is that what you call yourselves?
Yep, Daybreak Growers Alliance. So yeah, I'm Adrienne Lee and Colleen Hanlon-Smith. We're both here from Daybreak Growers Alliance. We're a farmer-owned food distribution business based in Waldo County. We are in our second year and have we work with about, at this point, we're working with close to 50 farms in our region in Waldo County and most of Western Kennebec and some beyond. We're a woman-owned business and operate a kind of two-prong approach to what I'd say is like a local distribution model. We started as a group of farms that were looking to have a more control and have more options for local food distribution of like where our food is coming from. I myself, along with being part of Daybreak Growers Alliance, also own and operate with my partner New Beet Farm. And Colleen, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Both of us have been in basically the Maine food community for a long time.
Yeah, I'll just briefly say I'm over here in Freedom, Maine, and another one of the owners at Daybreak Growers Alliance, and been working in food and farming, largely in marketing and distribution for the last, I don't know how many years it's been now, but a while. So great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us today. And so we work primarily through two different models. We operate a multi-farm CSA that distributes food across the state. We were distributing everywhere from like central Maine, the coastal Maine, and down to Portland. We also sell through wholesale accounts and also work with improving local food access through our work with Waldo County Bounty. We have a few different kind of key goals to what we aspire to. I'm just going to start sharing our little screen share here with you. 1 second. This works. Okay. Right. 1 second. Sorry, this is definitely new for me. Okay.
Looks good, Adrienne.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So yeah, we have here, you can see actually our website if you end up, well, I'll put that in the chat as well. But we work with a wide range of farms, many of whom you might recognize. And some of our goals are really trying to look from a farmer's perspective at what would be kind of the best way for a farm to have their kind of be connected to the food that they're producing throughout, from the point of it being in the ground to the point of sale as much as possible, while still being more in a wholesale type of a operation versus selling direct like a farmer's market. Also a big goal for a lot of the farms that we work with is being able to plan ahead and do crop planning and look at pricing in a way that is sustainable for them to kind of maintain their businesses while also being competitively priced and priced in a way that is more affordable for the end customer. Because we also are pretty, having local food access to a broad community of buyers is important to us. And we also really have seen, there's been a lot of different models of what I would say are these kind of small local food distribution that has happened in Maine over the past 10 to 15 years. I know there's been for a lot longer too, but the ones that we kind of saw as models in the past 10 to 15 years, we saw some things that we could see that being farmer centric could have its benefits, and trying to really look at efficiencies and maybe the farm thriftiness that we all kind of came to this with. And we also are really committed to kind of just trying to keep local food dollars in our economy. And these are just some pictures of our shares and some of our farms. What we mostly do through our multi-farm CSA is we kind of have a unique program where we offer fully customizable boxes to our customers through a online platform called Harvey that allows us to kind of reach a broader audience than traditional CSA would, because people can customize their boxes down to getting closer to what they really want to be taking home, just like they would if they were going to the grocery store. We've been able to see this year, realize a lot of growth through COVID, but also I would say I felt confident that we were going to see a good amount of growth this year, beyond just having kind of, I would say, the boom in local food interest that a lot of us as farmers have experienced this season. We had a really significant increase in the growth of our sales, and also we're really proud to be able to help move a lot of food for our farm producers. And I would say at this point, where we're looking into the future is we're not necessarily looking to kind of exponentially grow. We're really looking at our business as a model that could potentially be replicated in other parts of the state through kind of looking at regional food hubs, and then like places like we're based out of Unity, and Waldo County and Kennebec County farms are kind of where we have focused for the most part. But we could see the model of what we're doing being replicated in other areas to help move food from kind of these more rural communities to the population centers. And this is just a picture of our pack line for packing out our CSA boxes. We are based out of the Old Unity Food Hub, owned by MFT, is where we're operating now. We're really happy to be able to continue to keep using that space. Yeah, and we'll happy to talk more in the Q&A if you guys have any other questions. But yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. We've just heard from the for-profit sector, and we're going to move to the nonprofit sector with Maine Coast Fishermen and Ben Martens sharing an innovative project he's been involved in.
Great. Thank you guys for having us. I'm going to share my screen so you don't have to look at my face. And let's see here. All right. Can everybody see that? Perfect.
Yes.
Seeing nods, seeing that heads nodding. Thank you guys. So as a brief introduction, my name is Ben Martens, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. We work with community-based fishermen throughout the state of Maine. And traditionally, our organization has really been based in the advocacy world. So we fight for sustainable fisheries, conservation-minded fishing practices that respect small businesses in Maine and the coastal communities that they support. And more recently, we've gotten involved in different issues when it comes to protecting working waterfront access, investing in permits, and the things that fishermen need to do to be building next generation businesses along the coast of Maine. And so we work with lobstermen and groundfish fishermen and all kinds of fishermen up and down the coast. The project that I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is focused on groundfish. And so groundfish are species like cod and haddock and flounder. What you're seeing in the image that's up on your screen right now is a pollock, and that's a very abundant species in the Gulf of Maine that's delicious. So the project, the problem, COVID. Everybody knows that COVID's been really bad. It's been really, really bad for a lot of our small scale fishermen. In Maine, we tend to land a lot of fresh market fish. So those fish that are coming through the Portland Fish Exchange, cod, haddock, flounders, they go to white tablecloth restaurants, predominantly in Chicago, New York, Boston. Some of them stay in Maine, and all of those restaurants shut down when COVID hit. We saw over a 70% decline in landed value at the Portland Fish Exchange, and fishermen had to stop fishing. Unlike, one of the nice things about the fishing industry is we can leave fish in the water and they can be there for us next year and the year after. But that doesn't mean that the fishing businesses will still be there. But we had fishermen that every time they left the dock, they were losing money and they had to stop. At the same time, we started hearing that food insecurity in Maine was increasing, and that the hardest thing to get access to for a lot of the partners along our coast that try and help deliver meals to folks in need was high quality protein. Fish is one of the best protein sources that you can eat. It's good for your brain, it's good for your body, it's good for the environment, very low carbon footprint. And we decided that we wanted to build a program to try and support local fishermen and also feed our friends and neighbors in Maine who were struggling. So we started Fishermen Feeding Mainers, and we were very fortunate. We were able to go out and get some seed money from a national foundation that remains anonymous, but they were able to bring over $100,000 into our organization to pay fishermen a livable wage to go and catch fish, pay processors, so shoreside infrastructure. We supported shoreside infrastructure to cut the fish, process it, put it into packaging, and then freeze that packaging, freeze the fish so that it was in a capacity that people could handle. And then we were distributing it through our partners at the Good Shepherd Food Bank, Presente Maine, a bunch of other local nonprofits, communities, Wabanaki Reach, local food systems. Basically, what we said is we have a great protein source. We are giving it away. Who needs some? And one of the great things about this project is we've been able to connect with a lot of new people. The horrible thing about this project is that we've had to connect with a lot of new people. We've had more demand than we've been able to keep up with because of the need that has been spiking around our state when it comes to access to really good food. And so we're in fundraising mode still. We want to keep this program going for as long as we possibly can. But so far to date, we've delivered over 150,000 meals to those in need along the coast of Maine. And high quality seafood species like pollock and hake, haddock, monkfish. That might be something you guys aren't as familiar with, but it's a fantastic white flaky fish that we have a lot of in the Gulf of Maine. And so that's the long and the short of it. We really had to pivot as an organization. This is a space that we've never had to engage in the past when it comes to seafood distribution, food insecurity. But it's something that our fishermen have really gotten a lot of value out of in terms of connecting with the people who are eating their fish and supporting their neighbors and their communities. So thank you guys. If you want to learn more about the organization and this project, you can go to our website. I'll put that in the chat.
And I'm just going to jump in quickly to say thanks, Ben, and to thank you for in sharing this project with me. I was able to connect you to the Angolan Community Association, and 1,400 pounds of fish were delivered to community members from that association who are living in Brunswick, Portland, Westbrook. And that happened just before Christmas. And I think both the director of that association and I thought that it was just a one-time wonderful, wonderful gift, and found out as I was thanking, I think, Mary on your staff, that she was ready to do it again for them and just needed to know how many families, what cuts, how the packaging was going to work. And they were planning to continue this. So
We
it's,
delivered some last week.
wow. So it's just been another heartening piece for me to also meet the needs of new Mainers and not forget about them during this time, although the needs are great in every culture. So thanks again. And our last presenter will be Steve from Piscataquest Regional Food Center, letting us know about the innovative food hub that he and his wife, Erin Calloway, have been putting together for the past few years. Take it away, Steve.
All right, thank you, Bonnie. Sorry for the technical problems. We found ourselves on the road today unexpectedly. So this message is brought to you by Honda. And that's about as best as I can get for lighting in a Honda. So, yep. Why don't I just do a screen share and try to get rid of, oh, well, no, never mind. I didn't load it. So we created Piscataquest Regional Food Center a number of years ago after identifying large infrastructure gaps in our rural Maine areas. And for us, it's the Piscataquest region, which includes a lot of forgotten parts of Penobscot that Bangor doesn't remember as part of their county. And we identified that our farmer friends had similar needs to the food security areas, and a lot of their challenges were related to infrastructure problems. And I guess not surprisingly, when you think about it, the infrastructure for moving food for farms, storing food, moving food, processing food, and doing the same thing for food pantries, it's the same infrastructure. So we decided right from the outset that we could combine everything into basically under one roof with one set of infrastructure, one set of capital costs, one set of maintenance costs, and leverage it for the good of both the agricultural community as well as the food security community. And we did this through a lot of thrifty Mainer type things like auctions and donations here and there, lots and lots of sweat equity, and foundations and government grants have been coming in, and private foundations grants. And we were just really starting to get the basic infrastructure up and running as COVID came in. We had the largest food pantry in the area being hosted out of our building, and that was kind of stage one. We had gotten that done, and we were working on improving the warehouse and refrigerator and freezer when COVID hit. And so we accelerated that portion of it, and we're still working on it, but it's been largely functional throughout the entire pandemic. We have, we're about 5,000 square feet in total, depending if you include some of our other kind of longer term storage. And we started this with an idea of being combined with Good Shepherd and their need to get more food out to the area. They have their own, they're a fairly large organization, but they have their own constrictions on infrastructure. And in our situation, they send 2 trucks into our county or our area every month, and the trucks are full. And then COVID hit, and it's the usual problem. Well, if there's no room on the truck, what do you do? And so the idea is to have what they call a hub and spoke model, which is they drive the truck to us and then we distribute it locally. And this allows them to drive, to use their truck for other things, and shifting schedules around. They now deliver 4 tractor trailers into our area once a week. And that allows cupboards and school cupboards, as well as private pantries, to have greater access to food and a greater variety. And tying that into farms, we will be starting next year with our, we've got 1,000 square foot food processing area, which is mostly done, but got put on hold a lot because of the warehouse. And our intention is to get local produce either gleaned or purchased from our farms in the area and turn it into product which can benefit everybody, either slip it into the food security side, sell it for funding to plow back into the operations, and just kind of keep that circle going. Since COVID, we've had a lot of successes. We just started doing all the Good Shepherd deliveries starting in December, and it's already just proven to be a huge benefit. More food, getting out to more places more easily with less work for everybody on the ground. And the idea is that this will also probably in the end cost Good Shepherd less money to partner with us than it would be to have expanded their own operations. So we've done things like they had a surplus of foods that was being grown specifically for the Mainers Feeding Mainers program, and they couldn't get a truck up, and we started a relationship with a farm. It's about an hour away, a little outside of our normal range, but we've took in something like 25,000 pounds of food from them to distribute locally. The USDA has been doing these, what we call the mega distributions. You might have read about, seen in person. We have a whole tractor trailer load of food, and we hand that out right away in a parking lot, and we supplement it with local produce. And we did 4 of those before the funding ran out at the federal level, and we handled about 800 families. Some were coming for as much as 2 hours away to pick up food, and we supplemented the 30-pound box that each family got with Maine produce and other things. We sourced some bread and other things like that, and sent people away with 30 or say 40 or 50 pounds worth of food, and that has been really successful. And now they've got funding, and that's going to start up again. It's going to be cold, but we'll get to it. So I don't know where I'm at the time. I think that's about it. But the overall thing here is from the food side of things, the agricultural side of things, is to get our local farms some infrastructure. We store product, we can let them process in our air facility. We can even move product around, and we've done some pilot programs with farms already, and they're loving it. Really helped them out when they would have had product go bad, and instead it could come and stay with us. So I think I'll hand it back over to Bonnie.
Okay, Stephen, I think you are undeniably the innovator of the day in terms of being our first presenter to do so from a car. So thanks to Zoom and to your courage and flexibility, we are delighted that you have been able to include this presentation today. Thanks to everyone. And I'm going to open it up to Q&A at this point. So Carrie, how do we want to handle that? Do we want people to just unmute themselves and ask?
Yeah, I'm gonna put all of the presenters on the screen for us to see them all. And if you have a question, you can ask it directly to one person, or you can ask it of the group, and anybody who wants to can chime in to answer. Because we might not be able to see you when I spotlight the presenters, just please say your name before you ask your question. So just unmute yourself, say who you are and maybe what organization you belong to, if that's applicable, and then ask your question. Okay, I'll get everybody on spotlight for us.
Great. We've got Adrienne, Ben, and Heather. We've got Steve.
I'm moving it over your shoulder.
Oops, we went away. Did I go away?
And Barbara.
I'm sorry. This is George Underwood with PCEDC here up in Piscataquest County. I didn't hear how we were supposed to ask questions. I have 2 questions.
Just how you're doing it. Identify yourself and ask a question. Perfect. Great example of how it's to be done.
Okay. For Heather Donahue, I am questioning the value added producer grant. Did you say that you just received that or you're working on it? And I would like to be able to email you or give you a phone call to discuss your experience with that.
Sure. Yeah, Georgia, we actually worked on that grant for about 2.5 to 3 years before applying for it. The grant announcement was released in 2019 in December, and then it was submitted, I think it was March 10th, was like a red letter day that I finally finished the application. And it's quite a lot of work to put the application together. And there's a lot of bookkeeping that goes into any of the federal grants. But I worked with a grant writer to do it. And I probably wouldn't have been as thorough if I hadn't had someone else overseeing everything and helping me, making sure I had all the information in there. So that was a huge help. And I'm happy to talk about it more with you. Basically, we applied in March and then we didn't get notification until August. And then the grant period actually started the 1st of September. So I think we've put in for 3 reimbursements now, and then we're working towards having like a monthly schedule to just keep it in manageable chunks as far as the information we need to gather. And it'll go for 3 years, and it's primarily a marketing grant. And for that grant, you have to be a farmer where you have your raw product, and then you add value to it. So for us, our project looks like taking more of our milk and putting it into raw milk cheese instead of the fresh cheeses and the yogurt. So over the 3-year period, we're pretty much going to stop making yogurt, except for what we need at our farmers market direct sales. And we probably won't be wholesaling yogurt at the end of 3 years. And the pandemic has actually accelerated that plan of slowing our yogurt production a little bit, just because we sold so much cheese this year. We need to make a lot more hard cheese now in order to have cheese to sell later in the year this year. So we're actually pulling back on our yogurt production a little bit faster than we thought we were going to.
What was the total amount of the grant, Heather?
It's a $250,000 grant. It's a $500,000 project. So it's a 50% match. And your match can either be cash, in-kind value, or the value of your raw product, which for us is the value of our milk.
Did you look for other funding to offset that?
I'm not sure what
as in grants or foundational grants or.
No, not really. We had when we were running all the numbers, looking at preparing for this grant, it was pretty clear that it made a lot of sense to do this whether we got the grant or not. We were just going to take a really severe hit in farm income over the 3 years or the period of time it was going to take to do that. And a lot of the funds that we're utilizing in our grant is for marketing, to tell people that we have this cheese now, because our farm originally started out as a raw milk farm, and then our yogurts are very much identified and enjoyed, and a lot of people are going to be very sad that we're not going to be making yogurt anymore. But we made a big investment in our cheese cave and the cheese vat pasteurizer in order to be able to do this project. So even if we hadn't been awarded the grant, we would have still been doing this. It just would have taken us a little bit longer to kind of make that transition.
Yeah, I noticed the cheese cave. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you going to be, hopefully we'll have open farm days. Do you all do those?
We do. That's one of the events that we didn't have in 2020. We usually do Open Farm Day in July, and then we do Open Creamery Day in October. And for 2020, we actually spent a year planning lots of different events on the farm to bring more people to the farm to experience agriculture firsthand. And we had lots of plans, and a lot of those plans just kind of got shelved, you know, for a year or so to see what's going to be happening here. But yeah, we haven't done any like actual tours of the cheese cave or anything just yet. We've only been actually using the cave for just about a year since we put the first wheels of cheese in, because it finished construction in like October. And then it took us like 3 months to build all the shelving and do all the lighting and things like that needed to be done. The easy part was having the contractor do all the concrete work. And then it took us longer because we're farmers and we do other things, but to build all the shelving and stuff like that. So it's taken us a little bit longer to do that, but we have enough shelves and racking in there that we can store all the cheese that we can make now. But altogether it's sized so that we can actually take two whole years of milk production and just turn it into aged cheese, and it will hold that much cheese.
Heather, this is Lindsay Weld. Hi,
Lindsay.
Cheesemakers in Maine who have an in-ground cheese cave?
The one that I know of, and we actually went to visit him before building our cave, was he's over in Bristol. It was Bristolhoff Cheeses, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. He's since retired, I think. He had a really small one. It was probably like 8 by 12. Ours is 20 by 24 feet. So it's pretty big. I don't know of anybody else in Maine that has one that large. I think Josh Pond Farm has an underground one, but I haven't seen it and I wasn't able to find any information on their website about it.
Adrienne and Steve, my name is Tom Hazlett. I'm affiliated with Pematech Sea Farms. I'm really interested to understand the relationship between your work meeting the insecure food market and wastage through the farms that you gather from. So if I were to frame the question, and I think, Adrienne, you gave the numbers that you had a $906,000 revenue line for 2020. What value of that did you assign to the 8,000 food insecure you fed? And did you measure, or does anyone measure what that does to the farmers in terms of wastage in the field? And Steve, in a similar sense, you know, what, if any, measure were you able to capture on food waste as a result of the expansion of your operation? So that's kind of one area. And then my second is, as you go into the future, post-COVID, what will all the stuff that you've learned this year do in terms of shaping your business for the future?
I might actually post this question to Colleen. She's bit between our different prongs of our business has really kind of spearheaded the work with working with Waldo County Bounty, distributing food to for the food insecure component of our business.
Yeah, I'd be happy to field that question. Of the 906,000 in revenue that we did this year, actually the sales of food, or the amount of food that was directed towards food insecure, is reflected in a very small amount of that 906,000. It would be 20,000 of purchased food. When COVID hit, myself and a group of people who have been doing food insecurity work or local food access work for a number of years got together to think about what are the various ways in which we can be supplying food. And so one of those was to do fundraising to purchase from farms at fair wholesale value to then bring to 16 different hunger relief organizations that are already on our route. Another way was to partner with an existing operation called Veggies for All, which is a gleaning program. that did the infield gleaning with a lot of the farm partners that we have that we purchased from for our CSA, for our wholesale, and that we also purchased from the farm to pantry food insecurity program. And then where that 8,000 food insecure served comes in is we also participated in the Farm Family Food Box program as part of Waldo County Bounty, where there was food both coming from actually out of our distribution range up in the county through Maine Farmers Exchange, as well as through distributors down in the Mid-Atlantic, largely just because of the way those programs work and how the government chose which entities would be the recipients. But we, Daybreak Growers Alliance, as part of a broader network of Waldo County Bounty and a number of partners here in Waldo County, work to distribute those food boxes. And so through our gleaning, through food donations, through purchasing, through funds raised, purchasing from farms through fund raised, and through the Farm Box program, that's where those numbers come into play.
Well, for us, we're just kind of starting on that side of things. We've done pilots with doing some gleanings, either things being harvested by the farmer and we've picked it up. We've gone out into a field and picked some stuff up, and we've had some stuff dropped off. It hasn't been in any large quantity yet. The majority of the food that the produce that we've handled has been coming in through the Mainers Feeding Mainers program through Good Shepherd. So Good Shepherd is the agency responsible for that. They are making the contracts with the farmers and purchasing it. And we've had very little waste. We've done, one of the advantages we have is we've got, 10, right now we've got, well, it's increased now. So we've got 12 regular distribution points, cupboards, and both in schools and standalone cupboards. And that means that when one cupboard doesn't want it, it has too much of it, whatever, we can shop it around to the others and hopefully move it before it becomes basically a loss. In the future, though, what we are intending on doing is when the processing is up and running, is getting gleaned or donated foods or contracted product from local areas and converting that into something that is more stable so that we will minimize the amount that is wasted. And kind of a quick example right now, we had an opportunity to get, I think it was like 10 sacks of carrots. And when they showed up, there were parsnips. So not exactly a carrot. And we have not found a single pantry that wants to take them because parsnips are weird, and they are of the root vegetables. I love them, but they are not one of the more versatile ones. So we've had them for a while in our refrigerator, and if we had our kitchen processing up and running, what we would do is we would process those along with carrots and potatoes, beets, other types of root vegetables, and probably flash freeze them for a roasted medley of vegetables, which would then go out to the pantries, and that would be a far more palatable, easier to handle thing than a big sack of parsnips.
Thank you all.
I think the last thing I'd just say, because a lot of your interest seemed to be on food waste, was there wasn't a lot this year in our region. The markets grew so tremendously, and really that's what we want, is for that to become a viable source of income for our farms, as opposed to sort of an opportunity to make good after the fact. So while we do have gleaning programs, really, if we can be providing the farms with income for the food grown, that's a win-win.
This is Joel Moyer with the Fair Food Network, and I'm the portfolio manager of our investment fund, Impact Investment Fund. I just wanted to say to all of you, like, what you're all doing is super inspiring, and gives me reason to get up and do the work I do and supporting food businesses to create access for those who need it, for healthy food and so on. So hats off to all of you, especially those taking taking the steps you did in 2020 to meet the needs of the Maine community. I have a question specifically for Barbara and Sarah. I was curious about the franchise model and if there's businesses or a model you are basing that growth plan off of. And a second question there too, I'm curious about the break-even point for your business as you grow to that, I think you said 25 million in 10 years.
Yeah, thank you. So there are 2 or 3 other cooperative franchises. It's very new. We've met with them and talked with them, and we got a lot of support in the Start.coop program we were in, learning about all of that. We are really focused right now on just, having our main flagship production facility operating and going deep in terms of growing customers here. And so that's why we're going to wait till year 3 to start the umbrella cooperative. And we've had conversations with other cooperative farmers and farm organizations in other parts of the country to see about to float our idea around with them about whether the farmers there would have a good supply of. It doesn't have to be soybeans in other parts of the country. It could be chickpeas. It could be black beans, things that don't grow here in Maine but make unbelievable tempeh. So we've been putting our feelers out around all of that. In terms of our break even, and we project to be breaking even in end of year 2, actually. As the costs for doing the franchises, that's the kind of the beauty of it, is that the new franchisee, this cooperative, has to pay for all of the expenses to set it up. Now we'll have it be a turnkey operation and have worked out all the kinks in terms of which equipment works best and obviously the branding and the marketing and all of that. But they're, at this point, that's part of our strategy actually, is so that we don't have to raise a lot of money, that we can, be having the cooperatives, all of us prosper together as one cooperative.
So just to clarify, the cooperative ownership structure, that's going to be, is it employees?
It's worker owned, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Worker owned, okay, great, thank you.
Welcome.
If you want to look at an organization that it's not the same kind of franchise model where you have the same product, but in our earlier days we looked at Aries Mende that started, I can't remember now if it's in
yeah,
out in California, and they have multiple different organizations that
they're doing landscaping, housing, food. They're really kind of showing how a cooperative can be almost any model, and they're franchising and trying to make that word not an evil word, but in a good way. And for us, it just makes so much sense because of our dedication to sourcing locally and being able to support local organic agriculture across the country. And we want to be national because we have this innovative way of sustainably making an incredibly healthy, high protein food that will, so that's our dedication. That's why how the idea grew out of that.
Ben, I'd like to ask you, since you're a nonprofit and we can talk money, how's the fundraising going? And what do you need to keep this healthy local product available to people in need through the winter?
Yeah, thanks for that setup, Bonnie. That's perfect for a nonprofit executive director. So Yeah, we spent a lot of time and energy doing fundraising in fall and the giving season, and it was actually our most successful fundraising effort as an association in our history, which was really delightful. But now that we're on the other side of January 1st, the people stop thinking about giving in the same way that they do around the Christmas season. And so for us, we spent down a lot of money leading through the holidays. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, we had a lot of fishermen who needed to make money. We had a lot of people who were looking for food. And so we spent down a good chunk of our money. So we are looking to keep this going into the spring. So if anybody wants to learn more about this project and the work that we're doing, you can go check out our website. But we are kind of shifting into, at that point, we were kind of looking for seed funding to get it rolling. Now we're looking for sustaining money. It's been such an impactful project for the working waterfront and for those in need that we're really hoping that this is something that we can keep going throughout the state for a long time. One of the things, just as an aside, that was really shocking for us was the need for communication between those on the shore side infrastructure and those who are getting food. Most seafood in Maine, once it lands here, it immediately leaves the state. So a lot of the seafood that people are eating is not local. And for those that are getting any seafood in our those are in need, they aren't getting local seafood for the most part, or they're getting stuff that got left over at the end of a trip or after somebody was done cutting. And so this is, we're trying to take this as an opportunity to talk about eating healthy, eating locally, and eating seafood, including seafood as part of our food system in Maine. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with a lot of the folks on this call. And there's some great groups like Mayor Meeting Food Council and others that have been trying to incorporate seafood and seafood businesses into the discussion. But it's really, really hard to bring seafood into the discussion. And because of that, we aren't seeing, like, I'm surrounded on my Zoom with these amazing entrepreneurs and innovators. We don't have that in seafood other than aquaculture and lobster. And even for those, you just don't see a lot of small scale businesses popping up to take advantage of what's coming out of the Gulf of Maine, because a lot of what you read about in the news is doom and gloom. When in reality, there's a ton of opportunity to make investments and build small scale businesses to take advantage of like the best protein that you can get when it comes to seafood. I'm going to leave tempeh out of the equation. Okay. But so I would say that's one of the things that we also are trying to just share is like the messaging around eating local, feeling good about eating local seafood, and kind of folding that into the food conversation in our state.
When we spoke, didn't you mention two side questions? Didn't you mention that you got some state funding as well as this National Foundation grant?
We did, yeah. We were able to tap in some of the COVID relief money from the governor's office and the Department of Marine Resources, which was incredibly helpful to keep it going through December.
Aren't there also some weather restrictions on ground fishermen coming into heavy winter that we may or may not have? How does that affect things?
Yeah, it just it means that our coordination is a lot more complicated because fishermen need to find windows for when they can go out and catch seafood. So we've actually, because we've been able to set a firm price for what folks would be getting at the dock for right now, they don't have to try and take more risks. What we have found when the fish price tanks, it usually means that fishermen start making riskier decisions when it comes to trying to land when other people are not landing their seafood. And so, we've had a lot of fishermen who have been able to take advantage of this program and go fishing when other people are also going fishing because they know that it's a safe time to go and that they're going to get a stable price for their seafood. It's a really sad part of the business, but fishermen tend to get paid better when they take more risks. And that's scary for us. We actually, our board chairman last January died at sea when his boat capsized while he was out fishing, when he should not have been. It was not a good time for him to be out there, but he needed to do it for his business. And so this is the type of thing where trying to stabilize pricing for seafood has a lot of other benefits when it comes to safety, security, and business stability.
Thank you. I think somebody else, Heather, you had a question for him?
I did. Ben, can you remind me, what kind of form is the fish being delivered to the food pantries in? And was there any resistance or kind of question about how people would react to being able to utilize that protein source as it came into them? I know there's been, on the vegetable side, they get kohlrabi at the food pantry, and then if it's, nobody will take it because they're not quite sure what to do with it, along with the whole parsnip thing. It's just not as a common thing. And I wonder if that was an impediment to being able to get that protein out to people.
Yeah, it was, and it is. It continues to be. What we've been doing is we have been cutting it into fillets and packaging it into pound or 3-pound packages and freezing it. And freezing seafood, like most people are like, frozen seafood. We need to change that dialogue into like frozen seafood is a value add. It makes it easier to store, easier to use. But one of the things we've been supplying is like, this is how you defrost seafood so that it is like good on the other side of that equation. So really getting people to think about seafood in different ways. I mentioned monkfish. Monkfish is one of those species that's delicious, but it's a little bit different than what you might normally get as a fillet of fish. So we've been including a lot of information to the different communities that receive the fish so that they know how to deal with it. They get some recipes. We actually had one of the first schools that we donated seafood to. They actually threw out the first chunk that we gave them because they let it sit in their freezer, or let it sit for defrosted for, we gave it to them fresh. It sat in their fridge for 4 days. And they were like, oh, it's been in the refrigerator for 4 days. We got to get rid of it. It had come out of the ocean 2 days before they got it, right? So like just getting people to understand the shelf life of seafood and all of those different pieces of the equation, because a lot of people don't deal with seafood regularly. On average in the United States, we eat about 15 pounds of seafood each per capita, which is, we eat 9 pounds of avocado each. So it's really like, it's not something that people are used to eating. And unfortunately, a lot of the communities that we've been touching base with through are also aren't used to it. But to Bonnie's point, when it comes to some of the communities that have been able to reach out to us, first generation Mainers, immigrant communities, they are used to getting fish. They want fish. They love fish, and they want fish in all different types, like, whole fish, and they'll take redfish and monkfish and all kinds of stuff. And so it's been really interesting to kind of mesh those things together when it comes to who wants what and what types of fillets or whole fish and packaging, and trying to make that all work. But it's been a challenge for us to try and make sure that people are getting it in a way that's not wasted on the other side.
Hey, Ben, to pile on quickly, it's Tom again. How much of this business, the 150,000 meals that you've done in the last 12 months, is going to survive when that 70% of collapse in demand comes back? And what's the commitment to stay the course with this when the commercial capacity that you're providing support to is no longer needing your support?
Yeah, so what we are hoping to set up as we move forward is a backstop. And so even when we didn't have the 70% decline in value on the fish exchange, and we had the local markets and the fresh markets for seafood, there are days that fishermen will land their fish and they'll get 30 cents a pound on the auction for their seafood. And it's just because of what the market's doing, or because nobody else is on, it's an auction. So if they don't see anybody else bidding up the price of seafood, you can sit and you can wait and you can get stuff at a bargain. And because seafood has to move as soon as it hits the dock, sometimes fishermen can get taken advantage of. And so one of our goals is that we can become a backstop, so that if prices start to tank, we can step in and help support the shoreside infrastructure and the fishing businesses without undermining the local processors that we do need, and those markets that we really do want to be building up and supporting on the other side.
Thank you.
Probably time for another one or two questions from people. If not, just a huge shout out to all of you as participants, as presenters, as part of the audience for making this happen. I feel great about it. I hope you have all gotten something from it, and not just gotten something from it in this moment, but something to take with you to make you more aware and to offer a point of engagement that you can make that's different and maybe innovative in your own life related to these presenters or something that they've touched in you about our local food system. Because we know that regardless of crises that are in our lives at this point, we need to focus on local food economies for our health and well-being. And there are many innovative ways we can do that, and many ways that we can hold the vision and be steadfast in our commitment to it. So thank you all for being part of this network and for going forward together in whatever ways you choose. Look forward to seeing you again. We'll definitely schedule another showcase before winter's out, I'd say.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Have
Thanks,
a good
everybody.
winter.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
opportunity.
Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie and Carrie.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Carrie.
everyone.
Great.
You're all.